Now this is the problem with marriages and when you don't understand headships. Right? You become untrustworthy. You become a person of less value to others around you because everybody knows that they cannot depend on you when they need you. They have to brace themselves for your elaborate excuse. And the longer the story, the more unbelievable it is. You'd rather say, I'm so sorry. Fault was all mine. I'm sorry. But not, oh, you know what happened with my child, and this happened, and that happened, and my wife said this, and you know, and this happened. You wouldn't believe the bad luck that happened, and the traffic was so heavy, and then there was a flood, and then there was an earthquake, and lightning struck. And the whole story. Everybody knows you're lying. Worse still, you don't have the integrity to phone before your time has expired. I have a problem. It's likely I won't be able to, you rather say, look, it's likely I won't be able to keep my word at the time we agreed on. Can we adjust the time? Then to insist, I will be there. Me, I'm a man, I will be there. You can trust, you can take it to the bank, I will be there. Rather say, I'll do my best. I'll do my best to be there. If there's any issue, I'll phone you and I'll let you know. And keep that. You say, Brother Allistair, is it really that serious? Yes. It is. Now, those of you who are hypocrites, think about this. You know what happens when Amazon doesn't deliver on time? How about those pizza companies that give you a 30-minute guarantee and they don't deliver within 30 minutes? I want this pizza free. It's 15 minutes late. You have a policy to keep your word and you didn't keep your word. You hypocrite. What you don't understand, maybe the poor guy driving the scooter is to bring the pizza to you is he had a flat tire. It's not my problem. That's your policy. I'm holding you. See how simple it is? When it's convenient for you to make people keep their word, you come to the nth degree. But for us, we want grace. Please understand. You know, instead you say, that's not my problem. If you couldn't do it within the time you promised, you should have said so. This is who we are today. Nobody understands today. You hold other people and companies to their word without grace or forgiveness, and you do it with your loved ones too. And your brothers and sisters in Christ. And we break our word to many people every day, every week, the whole year, and expect the greatest grace. Why are we saying all this? You should be honest and say, I will try my best. There is a possibility I may not make it by the time that you ask. If I do not, please forgive me. That's a better thing to say than to give false guarantees. All right, let's look at a man's responsibility. Numbers chapter 30, verse 2. If you read Numbers 30, there's a whole chapter of the law dedicated to vows. This is how serious God takes a man, a woman, and their word. All right, are you still with me? If a man vow a vow unto the Lord or swear an oath to bind his soul, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeded out of his mouth. This means legally and spiritually a man's vow. Like for example, so this is in the book of Leviticus is saying to a man, if you promise to pay a man a cow or a donkey based upon a transaction you made and you don't keep it, I am holding you spiritually responsible. You are legally responsible and spiritually. For breaking the vow, you would have to bring some sacrifice to make it right with God. If you made a business transaction with another brother and you break that, you make it right with God and the man. That means they could make legal vows a spiritual thing if it was not kept. They could bring the offender to the high priest for correction. These vows range from borrowing money from a brother, promising to pay it back, and even marriages. Let's look at a woman. Verse 3 to 4. If a woman vow a vow unto the Lord and bind herself by a bond, being in her father's house in her youth. That means if you're a young lady and you made a vow, right? While you are under your father's headship, and her father hears her vow, her bond wherewith she had bound her soul, and her father holds his peace. That means her father allows the vow. Then all her vows shall stand, and every bond wherewith she had bound her soul shall stand. So with a woman, she's a little bit lucky. Because she has a headship, whoever her headship is, stands guarantor for her vow. Do you see that? Okay, you'll see where we're getting to this when we come to marriages. So that is an unmarried woman. She's protected from vows by her father. That means if she makes a vow and the father doesn't agree with it, it's canceled. She's not even held accountable. Okay? If a woman makes vows that were not kept, men would come in and violate them as payment in those days. And nobody would stand in the way because she didn't keep her vow. There were other things that were done, and so God put this law in place. Today it's called surety, right? Securitas in the Latin, or security. This basically meant if a father had accepted her vow and she was not able to keep it, he was held responsible. He would pay, not her, because he kept his peace when she made the vow. If not, right? If the father had accepted her vow and she was not able to keep it, he was then held responsible. He would pay it back or take the penalty for it. And she could be killed. She could lose her life. She could be publicly shamed or violated. Can you imagine living in those days, sisters? You complain about the vows today and the headships of fathers today. Can you imagine living in those days? On our African continent, some of it still continues. God taught the Hebrews, brothers, to protect the woman. Because if they were not protected, their lineages would become corrupted. Illegitimate children born. By that I mean, you have a wife and she's producing a child through somebody else. Right? With inherit, you wouldn't know. See, back then they didn't have DNA tests and stuff. You wouldn't know whose child this is, and you're passing on an inheritance of the father to someone who might not even be a son. Those were important things. Okay, let's go to verse 6. A married woman. If she had at all an husband when she vowed or uttered or aught out of her lips, wherewith she bound her soul, and her husband heard it, and held his peace at her in the day that he heard it, then her vows shall stand, and her bonds wherewith she bound her soul shall stand. Which means a married woman's vows are held by her husband. Do you see, according to the law of nature and the law of God, a woman's word is held by her headship?